The Civil Service Mains Examination 2025 has started today with the General Essay Paper. And when we look into this paper, the questions are actually more abstract. This applies to questions in both the sections, and in that way I would say that this is a bit difficult paper. Now let's see the questions. From section A, the first question is, truth knows no color. So this statement is about truth being truth. That means it doesn't support any particular color, means ideology or background or caste or religion or all those things we could put as the word color here. That means truth is, beyond all these divisions. Truth is something absolute. Now, if you want to try this one, you should start about the importance of truth irrespective of all these things. Even if you try to suppress the real truth with any of these parameters, the truth will resurface itself. So, just like, all of a sudden when you hear truth, you think about Gandhiji, his experiments with truth. So, he was a person who was always in search of truth, and you could quote some examples from his life in this essay, maybe as an introduction itself. And since the question is about truth, you should start with this kind of an example and define what you understand by this topic. Then the importance of truth in different walks of life, and the biblical version, the verse called and you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free, which is quite often quoted by the US administration. All these things you could bring in, but as always, examples, similar examples together and in chronology to make it essay with the proper flow. So that's the first one. Second one is, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This one is actually a quote from the book, the ancient Chinese book called The Art of War, and this also has, like here, how exactly you treat your enemy when you have to face him. So rather than putting up a direct confrontation, there are other ways in which you could subdue the enemy. So we might have, you all might have heard about the stories where people defeating the enemy with their compassion and kindness. Even again, Gandhiji could be quoted as an example, and Jesus Christ, who told about showing the other cheek when you are hit in one cheek. So such kind of examples of defeating the enemy without a direct confrontation is all you are supposed to write. So pick up, if you are going for this one, pick up the best example, like something like this, then explain how this is important. Then you can go about the, of course you could write about the real war also here, and it's, but don't write it like a question in your security issues, because here the word war means much beyond an everyday war and different tactics of war. You have to go slightly metaphorically to understand to interpret the topic. The third one from section A is thought finds a world and create one also. This topic is all about the power of imagination. People can imagine a world and skip into this. And they can, with that imagination, they can create a world and write about it and live in that. They can escape from the reality. You could interpret in any way. So when I read this third topic, the first thought which came to my mind is the book Alice in Wonderland. The girl Alice, while reading in an afternoon, slips into a sleep and gets into a world. So that sounds pretty much connected to this particular thing. So it's all about how one can create a world of imagination and live in that. So all this is about, so you could bring a lot of examples from the world of fiction and how that imagination, through that imagination one can create a lot of things. So you could mention about science fiction, you could mention about the other things. Of course you could mention the problems of it, because if you create a parallel world, sometimes you may cut off from reality. So there are problems also. So you could slightly mention that as well. The last one from section A is best lessons are learned through bitter experience. That's much more straightforward if you ask, because every failure is a stepping stone to success. So all these bad experience, bitter experience in our life, we can use it as lessons. So you could use anybody failing in one particular thing or being ridiculed by others, and then using that as a stepping stone. So from the world of sports, you have any number of such examples. People who repeatedly tried and failed but eventually became a winner. Any other field is also equally fine, but the experience has to be bitter. Again, I am thinking about Gandhiji, like how he was kicked out of the train and how he used that whole bitter experience into his fight against the apartheid regime as well as the British colonialism. Even that you could use as an example here. Then of course from different fields you could write, academic and sports we already mentioned, other fields as well. People always say about Abraham Lincoln facing a lot of adversities and later becoming the president of US. So such examples, think about them, order them in chronologically, and you could manage your essay here. So out of this 4 from section A, I think the last one, the best lessons are learned through bitter experiences, much more easy to comprehend, because the statement itself is very not very complicated, and most of the people can manage to write this one using examples. Now let's move forward to section B. The first question is, muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. So this is a very metaphorical way of telling that, when people criticize you, when they try to make things difficult for you, sometimes it's better to leave it alone. That's the actual meaning of this topic, but to write it in 1000 words is actually going to be really, really difficult. So once you understand this topic, then you could say that, say for example, some accusations against a leader. Nowadays, especially with the social media, these are like keeps on happening. But in there, then everybody pour in their emotions and stories circulate. So sometimes if you give too much of explanations, people may think the opposite. So you just allow it to cool it off all by itself. So that could be used as an example. So similar examples from different things, how it is important. But at the same time, I think you have to mention how in certain situations we have to do something about to clearing things also. So it's not that you have to support this statement entirely. You could write the other side of how in certain situations one need to clear things also. So first you have to write all these things of the importance of keeping this muddy water as it is. Then you have to go for the opposite, like how in certain circumstances it's important that we should clear the water as well. So moving on to the next topic. The years teach much which the days never know. So the meaning of this topic is, with time we may understand many things. Time is the best teacher. I mean, we often hear such a statement. When something happens, on that day, we may not exactly understand the whole thing. But as years go by, as our experience go by, we may understand things in a clearer way. So, allowing time to, understand something better. So, the years can teach much which the days never know. So something bad happens and we may not exactly understand the meaning of that, but as time goes by and maybe after a year when you look back, you really understand the meaning of the thing and that whole thing becomes a lesson. So this is somewhat similar to that best lessons are learned through bitter experience. I mean, there is a lot of common examples where you can use in both these topics. But again, the way the sentence has been put, sometimes when you read it, you may not find it very comfortable to attempt. Third question from section B is, it is best to see life as a journey, not as a destination. So, this is again an often repeated kind of a quote. The life, I mean, if you put just goals, life may not be very good because your entire focus will be on just to achieve that things, especially the material possessions and things like that. But it's important that you should live your life and enjoy that process as well. So, the journey is as important as the destination. So, if you are approaching life that way, every day the small things becomes much more meaningful. So, you could use any great people who lived their life rather than just try to achieve so much in a short span of time. So, you could use the Bhagavad Gita verse about the importance of doing your duty than expecting the rewards, or any such examples to begin with. Then, of course, explain the meaning of this, and lot of examples actually you can think about, like how and again we always talk about, sometimes people talk about the end justifying the means, but the journey, the path which you take need to be good and proper, which only makes the end more meaningful. All those things, examples you could bring in. The last one from section B is, contentment is natural wealth, luxury is artificial poverty. So contentment means being satisfied with what you have. So that's a kind of state of mind, especially people who had a spiritual inclination. They may not be much into the possession of material wealth, but they will be content with what they have. This topic again, you could use examples of great saints and people like Buddha and all, always talked about the desire, how it can be the cause of all your problems, and being content gives you a natural bliss. So Buddha can be very well quoted as an example here. But at the same time, while explaining all these things, you could put an alternate thought that contentment sometimes, if you are, it actually gives you a kind of static situation, and if you are too much content on the things as it is, that actually prevents you from making things better. So that too much of contentment sometimes can go against progress. So that aspect you can bring it towards the end. But it's all depend on how good examples you could bring in and how with that order and flow you are presenting. So for section B, I would say that this best to see life as a journey, not as a destination, that's much more easy to structure and write. So ultimately, the topics which you are picking is, matters a lot here. You should understand it and you should have a good introduction to begin with, and you should have examples directly related to the topic of your choice. I would say that this was the most difficult paper in recent years because all the topics are actually kind of abstract, which will not be very easy for someone who hasn't practiced it properly. So all the best for everyone who attempted mains 2025 and hope your efforts pay. Thank you for watching.